Heat from Qi stagnation, particularly liver Qi stagnation. What is this heat? How do I understand it? And most importantly, what can I do about it? Well, there's actually a lot you can do that's actually free and easily available to you, including foods you can eat, foods to avoid, breathing exercises, acupressure points you can use, little self-help massage techniques, and a whole bunch of other lifestyle and diet stuff, as well as acupuncture and herbal medicine. So we're going to dive into this area today and think about what can we do for heat from liver Qi stagnation. Welcome back to the Chinese Medicine Podcast. If you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe if you haven't already. I know there's heaps of you out there that are watching this and not subscribing because I can see you in the back end of YouTube, and I hope that you do subscribe because it supports the channel and it helps us grow, and I love to see things grow. Who doesn't love to see things grow? So let's get on with the video. I'm Hopkinson. I'm a herbalist and an acupuncturist, and on this channel I try to make it easy for you to understand what's going on in Chinese medicine so that you can help yourself. Sometimes when you go to a herbalist or an acupuncturist, there isn't really a lot of time for them to explain the diagnosis to you, and that's not really the purpose of going and seeing a practitioner. Like when you go to a doctor, they don't give you a lesson in Western medicine, for instance. But there are lots of people that want to understand, what does it really mean? So if a practitioner said to you, you've got heat, what does it mean? Well, if that heat is coming from the liver Qi or the Qi, we're going to go into that aspect of it today, and hopefully you'll have a better kind of understanding. So before we get started in what to do about it, and I'll put some timestamps here because some people don't want the explanation, they just want to jump straight into what to do, and I'll do that, and you can jump straight into how to help it, how to fix it if you already understand what it is. So we've got to come back to the 5 elements. So if we understand that we have 5 elements in our body: wood, fire, earth, metal, and water. Qi flow and movement belongs to the wood element. So in TCM, they think of this as liver Qi, and your gallbladder is also associated with this. Now, when we say gallbladder or liver, just remember it's not those organs specifically as they are determined in Western medicine. It's like a functional system around those organs, and we're using those to represent the function. So in TCM, the liver represents the ability for that free flow. So this idea of like there should be a free flow, there is a movement of Qi. And in fact, all the organs have their own movements. So the liver's movement is a spreading or in all 4 directions. And there is something called rebellious Qi in Chinese medicine. What does that mean? If Qi doesn't move in its proper direction, it could be going the opposite direction, and that's rebellious. The easiest one to understand would be the stomach or the lungs, because both of those energies descend. And if you've ever had a cough in Chinese medicine, that's rebellious lung Qi. It's energy going up, right? You can't catch your breath properly and it's kind of coming up. If you've ever vomited, that's rebellious stomach Qi. And before that, you might even have nausea or belching or things like that would be rebellious stomach Qi. So the liver Qi is a bit harder to understand because we don't kind of have a symptom as such that we represent this rebellious liver Qi with, except that it's that feeling of being stuck. It's a feeling of being like, oh, and it can also translate for a lot of people into anger. So what happens when you've got heat from Qi stagnation is you might feel hot. Some people even feel as if they've got a fever, but they check their temperature and there's no fever there. They feel warm, their hands might feel warm. They might be intolerant to the heat. They dislike the warmer weather often and feel stuck or blocked. Now, one of those symptoms that's associated with that blockage is part of what we call liver Qi stagnation, where you get a lot of sighing, like going, like wanting to release that stagnant energy is your body's natural way of sighing, putting it out there. So preceding this heat from Qi stagnation would be just the symptoms of liver Qi stagnation. This could have been happening for years and years and years, just kind of under the radar without this sort of like heat situation going on. So what is that heat? Like, what is it? Is it heat from the environment coming into your body? No, it's actually your own body's energy. It's your own body's yang, but it's in the wrong place. Now, this is kind of more pushing it towards a bit more of a classical explanation, because in classical Chinese medicine, they don't really have that pattern of liver Qi stagnation that is super popular in TCM. They more think of that as Well, that heat that the person's experiencing is just flaring yang. It's just the body's own yang kind of in an improper place, and weak yang kind of floats up and strong yang can stay down in its place. So from a self-treatment perspective, it's actually going to be very similar what you can do. So all of these things will be still beneficial for you to do if you have been diagnosed with that floating yang and you've got these kind of heaty sort of symptoms. It won't matter if that's the case or you've got liver qi stagnation. It won't matter if you've been diagnosed in that classical system or liver qi stagnation. If you've got a red face, for instance, if you get headaches, if you feel very angry or easily angry or frustrated, these are symptoms of that liver heat, liver qi stagnation. Oh, that heat can go to different places in your body. For some people, it goes into their large intestine and causes dryness and they get constipated. For some people, they get a lot of stagnation in their gallbladder channel, which makes sense because it relates to the wood element, right? So wood is liver and gallbladder. And your gallbladder channel actually starts here at your eye, circles around your ear, goes here behind your neck, down here, goes internally at that point, and then kind of crosses around the side of your ribs area, down to your buttocks, around, internally it's going to connect with that piriformis muscle, that kind of thing, into your hip flexors, and then basically down the seam of your pants until it gets to the foot at the end of at the top of the feet. So you could have symptoms of liver qi stagnation leading to gallbladder channel problems, like people might get headaches, which is the gallbladder area headaches. It could be tightness in this trapezius area in the upper back, really tight stiffness, or it could be stagnation in the lower part of the gallbladder channel. So it could be sciatica, would be a common presentation of that. But typically when you've got this heat, there's going to be either a hotness feeling or a flushing, redness in the face, that kind of thing, or it could be quite angry. Now you see this in the little cartoon man with steam coming out of his ears, right? That would be this kind of heat kind of rising up. And it can seem as if the patient is excess, but they're actually not. That heat is your own body's yang, and every time that happens, it's actually a deficient kind of situation. So they're actually getting weaker each time this happens. Now, one of the main symptoms that occurs for people is an inability to control their anger or feeling frustrated all the time. For instance, I have had patients come in and say things like this to me: Marie, I'm not really an angry person, but lately I find myself snapping at my kids all the time. We used to have an ad in Australia called Snappy Tom.
The cats of Australia have made their choice.
For this cat food.
Snappy Tom. Snappy Tom.
And when my sister would get angry, I would sing the Snappy Tom song and she would get even more angry. Right? The cats of Australia have made their choice, Snappy Tom. So yeah, that could be you. You could be feeling like, yeah, I'm a bit of a Snappy Tom. I can't kind of control it. It just feels like it's out of my control. Resentment is also part of this, like feeling hard done by, feeling like the world owes me something, or so-and-so owes me, and an inability to let go is kind of part of this, because it's like this lack of this free flow. Like part of the wood's element's job, their liver's job, is this idea of like, well, things come in, things go out, like there's a flow, there's a movement. And if we look further into the 5 elements, how does it get that movement? It gets that from water. So water is the ultimate movement. It's not static at all. It's kind of moving. Are you enjoying Chinese Medicine Podcast? Well, you can enjoy it better by supporting us financially and supporting yourself with Empirical Health's range of mushroom balls. So these are amazing. They taste delicious. They're easy to take. I'm going to show you that here. I've done an interview with the creator of these products, Dr. Simon Feeney, on our channel before. And if you use the promo code Marie, so have a check out of how beautiful these are. You don't need that many. And I'm probably going to regret eating this while I'm making the video. But they're so good. So you've got cordyceps, you've got chaga, you've got mushroom complex, which is an accumulation of a few different ones. So if you're not sure which one to get, that's a good one because it's got all of them in there. Reishi, lion's mane, and turkey tail. They're organic, certified organic mushroom ground and then rolled into these little balls with honey. One of my favourites at the moment is this chaga. So to me, these taste almost like cocoa powder. And they're amazing. So how do you use them? You just simply chew them up like what I've done there. Now, I like to put these in my handbag, and then they're there, or I keep them on my editing desk, and they're there when I'm reminded to, when I see the bottle, I take a couple every day. I love this company. They're highly ethical. Their products are great. So check them out. Use the promo code Marie, MARIE, to get 10% off in your checkout. And at the same time, you're going to support us in support the channel. Give us some money to buy some new microphones. Okay, be well, be amazing. Water nourishes wood in order to provide it that flexibility, to provide that movement. So that's one of the things you can do for this issue is wet your face. No, not really. But get around some water, do some water type of nourishment things. And we'll get into that later in the video. So let's firstly start with what we kind of can do to help this. So the first thing that you can do is something that's going to physically move that chi to allow it this exit sort of strategy in a way. So what happens is if the chi is supposed to be spreading, right, in all four directions and it's stuck and it's blocked, there can feel this sense of like almost a nuclear thing going on, like it's just got nowhere to go. So you need an outlet for it to go out. And often the reason why people get heat from Qi stagnation is because they've lost their outlet. They had an outlet and that's gone. Now, how could that happen? I've had patients where they've had a severe injury and they used to be very active and fit, and they just now can't do that because they're recovering from that injury. So it might be a temporary situation, but because they're sitting a lot when they normally wouldn't be, or just not able to be as active, they found that this Qi stagnation kind of comes on. Every time you move, you're stopping stagnation from happening. So you're benefiting your body in that way. So you don't want to exercise to your own detriment where you're sweating and you're, exhausted or something like that. But you want to promote this free flow, this free movement as much as you possibly can. So a few ways you could do that. You could get a standing desk and allow yourself to do some standing. Place things in the situation that makes you do that. So if you work in an office and you sit all day and there's not really an opportunity to do much exercise, you could use your phone and put a timer on the phone so that every so often you're reminded, I should get up. And when you get up, you just run up and down the stairs, or you make yourself put opportunities in your way to do some of this physical activity. Make time to go for a walk. Like walking is one of the best exercises that you can do, especially if you have injuries and you don't, you're still recovering from that. You can just walk at the pace. Now, if you've got a broken leg, I'm not saying walk on the broken leg, but I'm saying if you're in the process of recovering, you can, as long as you are moving for that sort of, I would go for 45 minutes, keep your body moving, even though you don't feel like doing it. You just keep going. That's going to be beneficial to you. You could walk in the water, and that would give you two benefits. One is it's going to take the weight off your joints and help you, give you a bit of resistance in the water, but it's also going to nourish you from that water perspective. It's going to help that water to nourish the wood. Singing and laughing are the two other things that are very good for liver Qi stagnation and hence moving the Qi, so that helps stop the heat from kind of getting to that point. So what would you do? You sing. Find something you enjoy to sing. Sing in the shower. Go, if you don't think you're very great at singing, do it in the car or something where no one else can hear you. Go to a karaoke place. Do that. Think of that as your medicine. Like, you've got to do that. And the laughing, right? So laughing, either you might have some mates that you just know, if I get around these people, they're going to make me laugh. They've got a great, like if I think about laughing, I'm gonna laugh. They're going to make me laugh. You might have a TV show that you enjoy, a comedy thing, something like that, that's just going to help you, book yourself in to go and see a comedian or something like that, so that you have that outlet. You just allow that pressure valve to kind of be released in that way. So they're the main things, okay? Singing, laughing, and exercise. So what else could we do? We can use pungent as the flavour to help the movement of the wood element. So particularly cinnamon, ginger, garlic, mint, basil, coriander, lemongrass. Most of your herbs that are culinary herbs have some kind of pungent effect. What is pungent? You might be asking, what does that mean? So part of pungency usually, not always, but usually has an aroma, aromatic. You smell it, oh, and it's fresh. Now that part of the function of things can also be like some citrus things can be very aromatic and some floral things can be very aromatic. So whether they're pungent or not, that aromatic aspect is very useful for the wood qi, the liver qi. And we're sort of helping to promote this movement so you don't get that heat. So let's talk about pungent first before we get onto the aromatic. But for this purpose, if you're not sure, you can go with either, right? So if it smells fragrant, it smells good like that. It's got a strong odor of a pleasant odor. That's kind of part of it. Often this happens with fresh herbs. Like once those herbs are dried, they're not as odorous. They're not as pungent and aromatic kind of smelling. Another aspect of pungent is often if you have enough of it, it's going to make you sweat. So this would be a curry. Or you put a lot of ginger into your foods, and if you mix ginger and cinnamon together, it's more likely to, or chili, for instance, would make you sweat. So do you want to sweat, or do you want not to sweat? To sweat or not to sweat? You don't really want to sweat unless you've got a cold or a flu. We would be using pungent to open the pores and make you sweat. But in this case, you don't want that, because sweating is a detrimental thing if you don't need that sweating. You do want sweating at some points in your life, but not all the time. So if you exercise and you open your pores and you're sweating, that in itself is going to release some of that heat that you feel. And that's going to be good. But if you don't ever stop that sweating and you keep on sweating, it's going to cause you a detriment, and you'll eventually get more dry from that sweating and, feel more muscular pain actually from too much sweating. So you could have a little bit of sweating. You don't want to have a curry so hot that you're breaking out into a fever, a sweat from that curry, or having it so hot that it then makes your bowels, give you like hot diarrhea or something. You don't want that. The burning ring of fire. Just want to keep it moderately warm. So you can experiment with this in your diet, in your food. Now, if it's winter time, you could probably, tolerate a lot more of that warmness. Whereas if you're coming into summer, you might not feel like having too much of that. So you could include like fresh coriander with salad, with some cooked chicken. You could have fresh coriander, in those rice paper rolls. That's a common combination. Or lemongrass, something like that. There's something that's not pungent, which is your chicken or your meat. And then you've got some kind of aromatic herbs and spices, and that often helps us to digest those heavier, denser foods. The other part of pungent, which is this aromatic. Now, some things that are pungent are also aromatic. So ginger would be a good example. You cut off a piece of ginger, fresh ginger, you're like, oh wow, really can smell that. You could use this in a few ways. You could use it in essential oils or perfume type of things like that makes the room smell good, especially if you feel really blah, like stuck, blocked. So what are the kinds of scents that do this? Orange, tangerine, lemon, bergamot, these kind of citrus notes of citrus fragrances of scents. So it could be essential oils, it could be in candles, this kind of stuff like that. Soy melts, whatever, however you make your scents go out in your room. Incense can do this, but most often incense is made out of heavier, sedative type of scents. Not always, but nag champa, sandalwood, frankincense, those things are not citrus. They're more just relaxing, sedating, heavier scents. So in this case, you want those higher notes of scents, and often they are better as essential oils because they dissolve quickly, right? A good example of this would be rosemary. So you could go out and grab some rosemary and touch it, right? Get it from the garden, sort of put it, touch it on your hands, and then you'll, I can smell that rosemary, or stick some rosemary, in your house so that you can actually, every time you go past, it wafts out and it smells like that. So citrus fragrances. Another application of citrus would be as tea. One of the things you can do for yourself is make tea out of citrus peel. So in Chinese medicine, we have a herb called chen pea, which is aged tangerine peel. Now, tangerines aren't that easy to get where I live in WA, in Perth, but you can get mandarins very easily, you can get lemons, you can get oranges. And these kinds of peels have a similar, not exactly the same, but a similar effect. Lemon peel isn't so great to kind of drink as a drink, but the tangerine peel or the mandarin peel, these are going to have a very similar kind of effect. So what you do is after you've eaten your delicious mandarin or orange or whatever you've had, you just keep the peel and you need to dry that out. So if you have a hot, dry kind of summer, like where I live in Perth, it's perfect, hot, dry, you could actually just place it outside somewhere so that obviously birds don't peck on it and things get it, but you want to dry it somewhere where it can kind of air out. If you try to dry these things and you have a moist environment or it's not very conducive where you've put it, it can get mold on it. So you can dry these in a dehydrator or very, very low heat in the oven. So if you'd finished cooking something else, you could put your tray of chen pea sort of in the oven on when it's turned off and it's just kind of slowly drying there, that kind of thing. So you can experiment with that. You can also buy chen pea, orange peel, qing pea is the orange peel. In Chinese medicine, qing pea is kind of more breaking the qi, more moving stuck qi that's even more stuck. I would start with the chen pea, and if you buy it from a Chinese food shop, Asian Oriental grocery store, they have one that's very dark and it's really delicious. It's aged chen pea, so that's why it's a bit more expensive than the not aged one, and it tastes really nice. So how do you make this as a tea? You just simply pour hot water over the peel, the dried peel, and you don't eat the peel, but then it infuses into the water and you drink the juice. Another herb that's often used is mei gui hua, which is rose petals. So rose buds, making a tea, you can actually mix those two together. So this idea of this aromatic, pungent aromatic, and chen pea is very commonly used in many Chinese herbal formulas in TCM, in traditional Chinese medicine, for moving qi, like when there's stuckness and that kind of thing. But it's one of the herbs that you can easily find it yourself. You can get some mandarin peels from somewhere and you can dry it and make it yourself. You can add a tad of honey if you need to, but honey is not really the flavour that you want for this, and certainly don't want things overly sweet. That bitter, aromatic kind of nature is what you're sort of after for this kind of effect. So that's on the teas side of things. You can also have other flowers that you can use in cooking or in teas and things like that. One of those things that's very commonly used would be baihe. When I say commonly used, I mean for Chinese culture. It's maybe something you've never heard of before. It's a lily bulb. Now I've got some of it on the shelf here somewhere. Let's have a quick look. It's white. There we go. There it is. So you can hear it rattling around in here. And this is dried dried lily bulb. So what you would do, the lid's sealed on so tight, is you would use probably I'd use about a handful of, about that much, right? Yep, there we go. Okay, so you can see that it's kind of, like little slivers of this stuff. And it kind of has a bland, almost a sweet, bland flavour. It's not disgusting at all. It's quite yummy. Now you can buy this fresh, and if you're going to cook with it, I would definitely buy it fresh. There's quite a few recipes online that you can find. One of them is using baihe and celery. And one of the things that baihe is used for in Chinese medicine is like mental disturbance. So when I say that, I'm not trying to say if you've got heat, yang rising and heat, liver heat, you've got a mental disturbance, but it can very easily lead to a mental disturbance. And you might not have a mental illness as such, but it can feel like that. You can feel like, man, it might not take very much for me to kind of go over the edge and I'm feeling pretty mentally disturbed right now. Or if you're feeling irritated by other people, like in classical Chinese medicine, they call that vexed, like just a bit agitated and a bit annoyed more than you normally would be. Having some baihe in as part of your food isn't going to make you any worse. If anything, it's going to help to, make you better. So it's a very non-toxic type of intervention that you could try for yourself. So if you go into Oriental grocery stores, you're probably going to find some Bai He in the fresh produce section, in the frozen or the cold foods area. So it's usually not available as an actual lily bulb in the fresh produce section, but it's not as dried like this. But I have cooked with this before. So how you would do that is you have to soak this. So you can't just go, oh, right, after this video, I'm going to make a Bai He meal. I'd have to actually plan that and soak this for quite a while before you cook it. Otherwise, it's too nutty and you can't really chew it. But you can soak the dried Bai He and you cook with it. So that's another one, and that is, again, it's a flower. It's a lotus. A lily. Yeah, it's a bulb of the lily. So it's part of this flower idea of this transforming movement, but it creates movement and things like that. So they're the sort of things. The other flower I was going to mention is what is it? Where is it? That white one, jasmine. The other flower I was going to mention is jasmine flower, and it's like a little white bulb kind of flower that you can use. And I use that a lot in herbal teas that I make because it tastes almost like a chaff, bland kind of taste. It doesn't have no taste, but a bland taste is still a taste, right? But it's just really calming to your mind, and it can help facilitate some of that movement. It certainly doesn't have a bold taste like the chen pea, citrus peel is going to have. So there are things you can do for yourself on the food side of things, right? So one is eating the pungent foods, including that in your diet. And I didn't list every single pungent food, but you get the idea of these sort of things. You can still use cooling pungent like mint, that's useful. But in general, warming pungent is just going to help facilitate that movement of what's already going to be, your body already wants to do. So ginger, garlic, basil, mint, lemongrass, coriander, these kinds of things, cinnamon, this sort of stuff is going to be useful. So we've got that, and then we've got the kind of flour, not flour as in bread flour, but flowers that we can eat or make teas out of. And then we've also got foods that we shouldn't eat. What should you avoid to have, right? So one of the things that creates stagnation is dampness. So foods that already cause dampness is going to cause food stagnation or bogging up of your digestive system. And then that just makes everything more bogged up. So it's like if you have already got this liver heat, you've got Qi stagnation, you're feeling frustrated, sighing, angry, that kind of thing. And then you have a big heavy meal, pasta, you're just going to feel more weighted down. So that makes you more bogging yourself up. I'm not going to go into the whole foods for dampness idea, but heavy foods, particularly when you've got a lot of grease and fat combined with carbohydrates. If you're on a ketogenic diet and you're having a lot of fats, but you're not having the carbohydrates, that doesn't seem to be dampening. When you look at people's symptomology when they're on that kind of diet, they tend to have less dampness, they have less cloudy headedness, all that sort of stuff. So fat by itself isn't enough to say that's going to cause you to have dampness. It's more when it's combined with sugar or other kinds of carbohydrates. So sugar's a kind of a carb, flour, breads, this kind of stuff. So just don't have to never have that, but just limit having that. Right, so now let's think about other things we can do. So we've gone through some foods. What about acupressure and points we can press? So one of the things that acupuncture does the best out of all the things it can do, the quickest, is if you do have Qi stagnation, the majority of people feel amazing from acupuncture because acupuncture is very good at getting in and moving things. I often use this analogy with my patients. Like if you've got a junk room in your house, you can instantly get utility out of that room by just clearing the junk out of it, right? You don't have to repaint it or get new furniture for it or anything like that. If you just get rid of the junk, you're like, wow, this is great. I can use this room. I can, like maybe some things are in a state of disrepair and you might need to repair them, but even if that's still the case, there's still disrepair there. It's a lot easier to use that room and benefit from that room if you get rid of the junk, get rid of the rubbish. And that's kind of what acupuncture is very good at doing. And that's what Qi stagnation is. It's junk, rubbish, it's stuckness. So we're just getting in there and we're kind of moving that. We're moving that along. Like imagine you're in a traffic jam, right? You don't need to anything else except for moving it along. That's all you need. You don't need a different car. You don't need better petrol or anything else than that. You just need the flow, right? If the flow, and if you've ever been in a traffic jam and you are moving slowly, it feels better than just not moving at all. And you sat there and you're thinking, when am I going to move? What am I going to do? You want to be moving on a road. You don't want to be sat in the road. And there's nothing worse than not being able to see in front of you, sat there on the road wondering, am I ever going to move? Whereas if you're just at least moving a bit, you feel as if something is happening and you're less angry in that situation. So acupuncture is very good at doing that, right? Facilitating that flow, relieving some of that stagnation. But what happens after the treatment is up to you. Are you back at the desk with the boss that you don't like telling you what to do, and the stagnation, the frustration's building up and you're tightening, it's all kind of building and building. Or maybe you haven't got that outlet that you need. We haven't really talked about creativity, but we could probably talk about that at the end. That's something that is a part of the wood element and often a reason. So if you stay to the end, I'll talk about the creativity aspect and how that could actually help your wood element and help alleviate some of this fire, heat feeling from the liver. So what points can we use, right? If acupuncture is good, then acupressure surely would help, and that's true. Acupressure can't ever replicate acupuncture for a few reasons, because we can't press every point simultaneously, and some of the functions that happen is from that. Another very big beneficial thing to this whole process when you have acupuncture is you lie down and you just chill out for 20 minutes or half an hour, and you're essentially relaxing, you're pinned down. And for a lot of people who have this kind of pattern, they're the go, go, go people anyway, and they find it very hard to stop. And so that stopping, if you can make yourself do that in your own time, well, all power to you. Like that's good if you can do that. And that would be the water aspect, right? So on one hand, you're having these needles in you, pins in you that are kind of moving chi, but you're lying there still. So all this stuff is moving, and these things are happening in your body with the acupuncture. And some people get a really big emotional release while they're lying down having acupuncture, but you're just lying there still. You're not moving, you're not doing anything, and you have to face the thoughts that come through your mind. Oh, what about this? What about that? You don't have your phone in your hand for at least 20 minutes. So can you create your own space where you can just lie down for 20 minutes and you don't have anything to bother you? Turn your phone off, you put it in a different room. You're not lying there playing Candy Crush on the bed or something like that. That would be beneficial. Another way you could do this is visualize having the acupuncture treatment. If you've had acupuncture before, you would basically lie down and you visualize the feelings that you get in the points. So particularly if you've had the points here and you get a tingly, a heaviness, some points in your head, this one here, the yin tang, yin tang and tai yang, these points here. If you've had those before, you'll sort of feel like, oh yeah, my head feels heavy and tingly. If you can visualize that, you can kind of replicate a similar feeling effect in your body to acupuncture. Right, let's get into the points you can press. So one of the biggest combos is called the 4 gates. And the first one is Hergu, large intestine 4, here. And the second one is liver 3, Tai Chung. So I'm going to have to take my shoe off. Never done this on the channel before, taking my shoe off. All right, I've got my foot up here on the desk and I'm going to point to where the point is. So on your liver channel, you've got it kind of going up here. Now you've got a big gap here and you've got liver 2 here and liver 3 just a bit further up. So what you want to do is press into the spot where it feels sore between there. So it kind of would be here. So between the big toe and the second toe. There you go. So there we go. I've showed YouTube my feet. My foot. So that's one of the points. So you could use the Hergu and Tai Chung together. Liver 3 and large intestine 4. And usually be opposite sides. So I'm pressing this one here and then my foot would be the opposite side, or this one here and that one. How do you press these points? There's no exact way, okay? I'm just going to give you some ideas, but you can make up your own ideas as well. So you just basically press it. You can do rotations around it, circular movements. The point is that you feel heavy, achy, tingly. It'll probably go down your finger because that's where that channel goes. And often with this point, you kind of press like that. With your foot, you might have to use sort of the back of a pen to kind of get in there and press. Let me see if I've got one here. So you would kind of, like that point would be similar to this area on your hand, on your foot. Well, it's actually opposite. Like this would be your big toe and your second toe actually here. So you just kind of press in like that, okay? Now, another exercise that's really good is on your gallbladder channel. There's a couple of things you can do. So I'm going to go from the top and then we'll go down. So the first one is gallbladder 20 at the back of your head. So what you're going to do is you're going to find between your trapezius muscle and your sternocleidomastoid muscle. So sternocleidomastoid goes this way, trapezius goes this way. And your trapezius is kind of a bulging one right from the center, and it's going to bulge that way. And then if you keep going, you'll feel another bulge and you'll be all the way around to your ear. So you don't want to be that far, but between the two bulges. Now how you're going to press that is put your thumb in that little bulge underneath the ridge of the bone of your skull, the occipital bone. And you can actually lean your head into your hand. Now, as you do that, I'm actually feeling that here on my head, and my gallbladder channel even goes to there. And I can feel it quite strongly. So if I just go normal, I can push my thumb or my finger into that point, or I can push my head back into there. And that's actually a lot stronger if I just lean my head back into the point. And I can feel this side's a lot more painful to press than this side here. And that's going to be common. You're going to have one side that feels more sore than the other, and that's fine, that's normal. Okay, so that's the first one, gallbladder 20. The second one you can try is gallbladder 21. Now, where's that point? It's actually midway between your acromion process and the center of your body, right? So roughly here, right? Now, what you're going to do is this bird pecking method. So you're going to get your fingers all together like this. I'll get my face out of the shot so you can kind of just see that. And you're going to have your fingers together and you're going to go like this. So it's like a tapping kind of motion. And don't tap on the bone because that would be very painful. But we're just going to go like this. So I'm just going to move the microphone out the way here. I'm going to do it like this so you can kind of see in here. So I'm just going to put my head to the side and tap like this. You wouldn't use the gallbladder 21 if you're pregnant. If you're breastfeeding and you need to get that let down reflex, that's also a common point for that, but that's just a side thing, a free thing for the video. But if you're pregnant, don't use that point. But if you're any other circumstance, then you can just kind of press that one and kind of tap on there. The last one I want to give you is actually on your gallbladder channel on your waist. So if you put your hands on your hips, if you're sitting like I'm sitting, you'll be able to find this fine, or you can either stand up. So I'm going to stand up to show you. I'm going to put my hands on my hips here, and where my thumb ends up is going to be on the ribs. At the end of that rib, there's going to be a little bit of sort of, if I come forward from that, so I've got my hands on my hips and then I just come a bit further round this way. So you want the end of the rib, and that's going to be gallbladder 25. And that point is kind of central to moving the gallbladder chi. And you can actually just press that if you're feeling stressed in a meeting or something. You can just sit there and sort of press on it. Like I could be sitting there in the meeting and you wouldn't know that I'm sitting there pressing the point madly with me in my frustration, pressing this point. A little bit less, more obvious, less incognito would be this exercise of just rubbing here. When I do singing in the studio, I often press this point while I'm doing my recording takes, because it actually helps your diaphragm sort of open up a little bit, and you just sort of press the end of that point. Let the sighing come out because you don't want to be sighing into the microphone, obviously. But I've noticed that that's helped me, and this is called the hero pose, this kind of pose here. So part of that pose is that you actually are pressing on that point. And there's been research on this pose that shows that it, increases people's power, like personal power. And they're supposed to actually use their fists and put them into their waist. And there's something to do. There's got to be something in Chinese medicine along the way, along the same lines of that, because your wood element energy would be the central motivational energy that you have. So this pose, if you just sort of do that and you press into the hips and you're not even trying to press that point, you are naturally going to press on the gallbladder channel. There's no other channel that you're going to touch significantly. That's the main channel in that area when you go like this. So you have like a gallbladder point here, and then if you keep going further onto the 11th floating rib, you've got your liver 13, a point there as well. So just be aware when you're pressing at the ends of the ribs. It's a very sensitive area. You won't need to press too hard. Certainly don't push down on this point. Like, you just kind of rub like this. You don't need to press it too hard. You can do patting or something like that, but you don't need to press any harder kind of in there. You wouldn't press it as hard as you'd press on here. You just wouldn't need to before you get that feeling. So there at 3 acupressure points, you've got the large intestine 4 and the liver 3. That's a little combo. The gallbladder 20 and gallbladder 21, and then the ribs, gallbladder 25 area. So there's some acupressure points for moving the qi in order to facilitate that heat away from the face, away from the head. So things like headaches, flushed face, redness, angriness, all that sort of stuff is facilitating that to kind of dissipate away. So we've gone through a few things. We've gone through singing, laughing, exercise. We've gone through pungent foods, some foods to avoid, maybe some floral, aromatic types of foods or things you can use to make drinks out of. Avoiding things that can cause dampness. Finally, before we finish, I want to talk about the metal element and the wood element interrelationship. And I won't forget about the creativity. I'll remember that. The metal elements in relationship with wood. So if we have a look at this 5-element diagram here, you're going to see wood, fire, earth, metal, water. That's the generating cycle. So that means water generates wood. What controls wood is metal. So metal controls wood. Metal belongs to your lungs and your large intestine. So it's like the looker afterer, right? The big brother. Keeping it in control, as in not, there's an out of balance pattern called over controlling, and that would be someone that if something over controls you, it's certainly not beneficial for you. It doesn't let you flourish. So this idea of controlling means that there's boundaries there, but within those boundaries you can flourish. This actually comes from the husband-wife relationship, right? Originally, this was how they talked about this. They called this the husband-wife cycle. Like that's the analogy. So this idea that you're controlled, one element is controlling another, but for its benefit. So it's not over controlling it. It's a balance, right? This is a fine balance between that. So if we want to benefit the metal element, we would work on our breathing. So naturally, this is why sometimes people who get liver qi stagnation and liver heat feel a lot of chest symptoms. Frustrated. Some people are even doing this. Unnatural. Maybe not as obvious as that, but they are sort of like working themselves up into a frenzy in a way and unable to sort of relax into that. And so practicing your breathing. Now, the easiest thing I could recommend for you to practice your breathing and to get control of your breathing and find out where the breath is going in your body would be the Wim Hof method of breathing exercises that you can do. He's got several free YouTube videos. I think those are awesome. If you're into meditation, yoga nidra, something like that, there are exercises that will help you be aware of where your breath is. Mindfulness activities can often do that. But if you are easily distracted by those things. And I'm saying that because a lot of people with this wood element issue, the liver qi stagnation, are people that find it hard to slow down, find it hard to stop. They're like, I don't need no meditation. I just keep going and keep doing their stuff. The Wim Hof is maybe easier for that because it's a very purposeful practice of and it's a short practice of what you're doing when you first start doing it. I'm not saying doing the ice baths, that's a whole nother thing, and the cold showers and stuff, but this idea of, he's got breathing exercises that you can do, and you can just look those up on YouTube. It's not hard and they're free, and they're a timed thing. So it's a breath holding exercise, but it's also a exercise that you do before that. So there's some places to start. So thinking about that breath. So hopefully this has been useful and helpful to you. I'm going to talk about the creativity now at the very end. This is kind of the bonus thing. So every element has the relationship to mental, emotional functions, but also to seasons. The wood element, which is the liver and the gallbladder, relate to spring, doing new things, movement. We've already talked about all that. But part of that is like this birth, right? Giving birth to ideas and having creativity. Everyone has the ability to be creative. If that's been stifled for you as a young person, you might have something in you that needs to be expressed and you don't know how to express it. Like, for instance, when you first did a drawing and the person you showed it to said, oh, that's shit, you're not a very good drawer, that's not a great person, and you're like 5 years old, you're like, well, how am I supposed to be good at drawing a person, right? Whereas if they said to you, oh, that's so great, keep going, and you were encouraged to kind of do that, those people tend to, flourish in those creative pursuits. So I understand that it can be hard for people. And you also have people that are just not naturally, they wouldn't consider themselves naturally creative. But all of us have the ability to be creative. And it might show up in different ways than being an artist. You're not necessarily, everyone's meant to be an artist, but you might be creative in the way you use Excel spreadsheets. You might be creative in the way that you think about solving problems. Creative in an analytical sense. Creative could be, very free flowing for you in terms of like arts and, crafts and, dance or movement or, there's lots of things, or the way you design your house or the way you express yourself there's so many different aspects of creativity. And what I'm getting at is if you don't have an outlet for it, there will be stagnation, there will be stuckness. And it's not an as easy one to fix. If you know that there's an outlet and you're like, oh yeah, I've always loved painting, but I never get around to doing it, or I don't have the place to do it anymore. Something's happened where you can't do that thing anymore. Like you might, be an awesome guitarist and now your hand's gone and you can't play. I mean, like that would be tragic. I've had friends who have maybe have had an injury and they can still play, but it's not as good. It's not as enjoyable for them anymore. There might be other ways you can still express that aspect of creativity in your life in a different way by doing something new. And you won't know until you explore it and see, do I like doing this? Do I not like doing that? But it is something that could help in the long term benefit you. It's going to benefit your wood element. It's going to bring you more happiness because you're going to have movement in your life and for some people their creative pursuit just is an outlet for all the stress that they have to endure in their general life. Like you just have a very stressful life and you're like, oh yeah, once a week I go to pottery and I feel really good from doing that. So if, you've allowed time for these other things, you're like, oh, well, I've already doing exercise regularly, but I've still got this liver heat problem. What's going on? Maybe it's the creativity that you need to address, an outlet for something to flourish out of your life, right? That's kind of, it could be super meaningful. It could be something where you just maybe let yourself go and not have to be good at it even. Like there's a benefit that comes from that where you just allow yourself to be able to do it and you don't have to, like if you're a perfectionist and you're like, oh, I have to be good at this, you don't have to tell everyone that you're doing it. You can just do it and enjoy it, do it for the enjoyment of doing it. So I know this has been a bit of a longer video than usual, but I hope that it's been useful and helpful to you and beneficial to understand all these different ways that you can help your own self. If you've got stagnation, if you've got liver heat, you know, you might have, I didn't really go through most of the symptoms there, but for many people it's emotional stuff, frustration, anger, resentment, that kind of thing. Often headaches or migraines can be symptoms, like constant neck tightness. And redness, like redness in the face or flushing. I mean, you can even have this pattern as part of a menopausal kind of pattern where people get this redness and this heat symptoms. Like they feel hot, feel vexed and hot. So yeah, hopefully this has been useful and helpful, and enjoy doing some of these things that even if you don't have liver heat, having an outlet for your creativity is going to be useful for you. It's going to be important for you. Doing exercise, singing, laughing, it's going to stop stagnation from building up. So you don't have to wait until you've got this illness or until you've got this pattern before you start doing these things. These are things you can do to stop this from ever kind of happening to you. So thank you so much for watching. Hopefully you've enjoyed it. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Really appreciate you supporting the channel. And I'll see you again on another video soon. Sometimes when you go to an acupuncturist or a herbalist, there isn't really a lot of time. Why is there a beeping sound going on? Great. Thank you, beeper. Thank you, society. And before that, it's even belching or, again with the bloody honking, called I'm answering a subscriber's question today, or particularly just she